I'm Damien the DM from Adventures in Aurelia, a collaborative storytelling experience told through a game of Dungeons & Dragons, part of the GonnaGeek network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other epically geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Six, seven! It's another episode of the official GonnaGeek Show. I am Steven, and I am pleased to say Chris Farrell is here.
The meme is dead, everyone. If we're doing it on the GonnaGeek.com show, the meme is dead.
Also, SP is here.
I will correct you, Chris. It is the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hey, I'm sorry, then we're officially done.
I'm going to throw this out to the audience. I want to see what they think about this. This is the official GonnaGeek Show, but back in the day, we were the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, and then there was this whole thing where it was like, there was a stand that was taken about podcasts versus shows. And we're like, you know what? Show is more reflective of what we are. So we switched over to show. But luckily, the world has reclaimed the term podcast to incorporate video now. So should we go back to the official GonnaGeek podcast? That's the good question. And I say it's a good question because I'm the one positing it.
How does that assist or not assist SEO?
I think the word podcast inherently assists SEO. Like if you do a podcast,
right,
that just raises the SEO up above show, which is low, and podcast is higher.
As long as we don't call ourselves a netcast, I'm happy. Thank you, Albert, for reminding me of that one.
Oh, the official GonnaGeek.com netcast. That has a ring to it.
That's me throwing some shade because when that first happened, I thought it was dumb, and I still think it's dumb like 15 years later.
There was a little bit of shade on that nudity as well.
Isn't
Which
Leo Laporte coming in to retire soon? I mean, I heard that like a year ago or so.
I don't know.
I didn't even know that he was still netcasting.
The last I heard, they fired most of the people or let go most of the people on the network except for him and his wife. That's the last I heard. And they were having problems.
Closed the studio.
Yeah, and they were having problems maintaining viability. That's the last I heard.
They make a pill for that.
So anyways, let us know. What do you think? Should we be a podcast? Should we be a show? Should we be a netcast? Should we be a net pod show? Let me know.
How about podcast show?
That's a lot.
The official GonnaGeek.com show podcast.
You know me, I can only really count up to 3, and so it's got to be only 3 words.
GonnaGeek pod showcast.
Come to our Discord. It's GonnaGeek.com/Discord and let us know. What do you think? Should we go back? Because, hey, I know a couple of guys that have some up-to-date mic flags where it would fit right in.
You want me to go real up to date? I'll flip it to one that's super current.
Is it Starling Tribune? Please tell me it's Starling Tribune.
It is exactly Starling Tribune. I think that's right here.
R.I.P. Arrow.
If there was any of my podcasts that I would want to take down, that would be the first one.
Is that because I was on there a couple of times?
No, not at all. It's just
that's
because
a coincidence.
I soured from the whole DC universe on the way they treated the Arrowverse.
Oh, I agree. It was bad. And also Arrow, just in general, how they treated Arrow, not just the Arrowverse, because Arrow got pretty rough there when they decided that they were going to make the team have some issues and split up.
The fact that Felicity wasn't there the last season, I mean, they did it right at the end, right? But
yeah,
the fact that she wasn't there for the last season said everything that you needed to know about the show.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. So come on by to our Discord and talk about Arrow.
Or not.
All right. Should we get into the GonnaGeek.com Podnet show news?
Why not? We're here. Hey guys, I know I updated everybody on what happened in the year of space when we're talking about heavy lift space vehicles and rockets, but something happened between the last time we recorded and this time. Actually, a couple things happened between the last time we recorded and today, and that is Starship Flight 11, SpaceX's the biggest rocket this planet had ever seen, actually launched for the 11th time from Starbase USA, formerly known as Boca Chica, Texas. Go ahead. I know you guys do it. Go ahead.
No, because I peed myself by the end of the last show.
I said it so much ago.
Well, depends on what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it depends. You're absolutely correct on that.
I was just going to say depends. Are you wearing any? Because we could go more Boca Chica for you.
You think I'm wearing pants right now? Come on. Come on.
Nice one. Nice callback, especially because we were talking about Leo Laporte earlier. All right. What we're talking about now, though, is Starship and SpaceX. And Flight 11 happened on October 13th, 2025. That is the 1-year anniversary away from the first booster catch of the launch tower ever. And that was October 13th, 2024. So booster 15-2 and ship 38 lifted off at 6:23 p.m. Central Time from Pad 1 at Starbase, Texas. And all 33 engines were running at liftoff. No engine shut down during the ascent on stage 1. There was hot staging at the separation. It was completely flawless with the directional steering or control due to the hot stage ring blockage configuration, where they can basically determine which way the booster is going to flip to come back, which means that they can use less fuel in that maneuver. This was also the last Starship to use a separate hot staging ring, as version 3 will have an integrated, reusable hot staging ring included in the booster itself. They didn't do it before because there was a weight distribution issue. They fixed it with version 3, made it a lot thinner. They didn't have as much weight up there, and they took away some weight at the top of the booster tank, and also simultaneously had some more shielding to protect the top of the booster away from the hot staging, because you're firing 6 rocket engines right on top of it. So they did some more shielding and yet came away with less weight in the design, at least for version 3. The rocket returned to about 12 miles offshore from the launch site. The booster simulated a different engine burn configuration, which is more similar to what version 3 rocket engines will do. And it was also to reduce the total amount of fuel. If you reduce the amount of fuel you need to return the booster to the launch site, then you increase the amount of mass you can actually put into orbit. So all these little savings of fuel and weight along the way really add up to how much pounds and mass that you can put into orbit. When it came back, though, I don't know if you guys saw it. Did you guys see it? Booster 15 hovered a couple hundred feet over the ocean for, 10, 12 seconds, something like that. Did any of you see the video of that?
I did not.
I didn't, but the way you just described it, I feel like I did.
All right. It's just hovering there,
what you did.
just static, a couple hundred feet above the ocean. And then the engines cut, and they deliberately did it a couple of 100 feet above the ocean so that when it hit the ocean, it would definitively explode. They didn't want any parts left over. They wanted to clear the area for marine navigation. They also wanted to make sure that there was nothing left for technology transfer to somebody that they didn't want to transfer it to. So they made sure it exploded.
A question for you. You said it was static there. Does that mean you need like a static remover or something? Because I got some here. Would that work for you? So
I mean, it would work for me. I don't know if it would work for the booster. Does it work on stainless steel? I don't know. Does it say anything on the label that it works on stainless steel?
It says, wrinkle releaser, odor eliminator, and stainless steel Starship 11 static.
So they can use it for lightning protection?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
How much is Bounce paying us for this plug? Because I'd like to know my cut.
As much as the
it
GMC
wasn't Bounce
4x4 Sierra version.
It was Bounce A.
That's
It's Canadian.
Well, the booster did not bounce. It went down and it exploded. And it was like it was waiting for a standing ovation or something as it was saying farewell before it went down and it exploded. It was great. I will send you the video since you obviously didn't see the greatness of it. And it was really cool. For those listening,
really
Stephen
doing that?
literally
Okay.
stood up from
Okay.
his chair. Thank God he was wearing pants. And he did some and there's Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, sit down, please. You're not wearing any pants, dude. Sit down.
Chris was smart enough to unmute his microphone for an audio medium. I was not.
I thought you did that on purpose. I'll be honest. I thought that was the gag.
Yeah, a slow silent clap. Yeah, that was great. Meanwhile, the ship, which was Ship 38, continued on its flight. It dispensed 8 simulation Starlinks. We've dubbed them as Simlinks, by the way, without hitting the payload door this time as they did in Flight 10. And it successfully lit the engine in space once again. And despite missing tiles in key areas, which SpaceX intentionally did because they're trying to break it, they're trying to see how many tiles and what locations is going to make this thing fail. It actually survived re-entry. It performed several high G positioning and speed reduction maneuvers to land precisely on target in the Indian Ocean, simulating the actual landing path that it's going to have to take coming into Starbase USA or Boca Chica. There you go, guys. Take another drink. When it landed in the Indian Ocean before toppling over and exploding as planned, because every time the thing has toppled over so far, it's exploded. It did so again. So all successful flight for Flight 10, Flight 11, but as we discussed last time, version 2 was not really successful. There was a lot of failures. There was like 5 failures major failures in the program before they got their successes. This will be the last flight for 2025 until they resurrect the new launch pad, Pad 2. We discussed this last time in version 3 of the rocket. It'll be sometime in early 2026. But that's not all, guys. There's more. As Chris celebrated with balloons, by the way. The more is today, there is some controversy over the Artemis III Lander. Have you guys heard any? This is late breaking this afternoon. Did you guys hear anything about this?
No, because I don't pay attention to things ever.
No, you don't. Like, you don't listen to Chris. You don't listen to me. You just keep on going and doing whatever it is you do in Canada.
Who?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So in case you guys didn't hear, the acting NASA administrator, which is also the Secretary of Treasury. I wrote Treasury. Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, announced today that he was not satisfied with the pace of Starship development and is going to open up the Human Landing System contract for competition again. Now, Blue Origin has continued development of its moon lander for an Artemis 5 mission, and it might be a viable option for Artemis 3 at this time. Blue Origin's pace does depend on the reuse of a new Glenn booster, which is set to launch just in a couple weeks, sometime next month. And it will be used to launch a prototype lander to the moon sometime next year. Secretary Duffy emphasized the race against China to return to the moon and is pushing for a 2028 or earlier date to land on the moon. By the way, in case you weren't counting or weren't paying attention, a 2028 date coincides with the final year of the current Trump presidency term. So in case you were wondering why 2028 was so important. China, meanwhile, has expressed a plan to land on the moon in 2030 for the country's first time. That's all late breaking news this afternoon, except for the fact that China is planning on going to the moon in 2030. They've had that for some time. So here's my question for you guys. Are you guys ready for the question? Have you been paying attention at all?
I have.
I'm not
been
ready
paying
for the
attention.
quiz.
Okay. Question for you guys. Has SpaceX squandered its lead in a race back to the moon with 2025 Starship version 2 epic and public blunders? Or do you think they're now paced on a good path to get to the moon before Blue Origin?
I really don't want to answer this, but I'm going to have to answer it. And I will try to let us live in our disconnected world of podcasting right now and not have to face the reality of the world. But I think this is politically driven.
No, you don't say.
I think
I'm shocked.
Really?
I
wasn't reading that at all.
I think that is the only way in which that they squandered it, is that they didn't make it happen before someone got in someone else's bad books. I think that's the driving force behind this, and I think that also there will be a bit of motivation here to lower some prices, do things a little more favorable, maybe to the books, the American books. I don't know what you want to call it.
Books to do what? I'm
like basically make it more affordable.
Make what more affordable?
The whole
Canadian?
program. The whole program.
Molson?
Yes, the Molson Canadian.
No,
No.
what whole
Basically,
program?
bring the budget down.
Bring the budget down for what?
The moon landing.
The moon landing. Oh, for the United States to pay for the moon landing, whether it comes out of NASA's budget or not.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't it coming out of NASA's budget, or am I wrong on that?
Right now, the Artemis program is funded by the United States through NASA. That is correct.
Yes, exactly. So obviously, they are trying to reduce budgets right now. And so I think that this encourages maybe more gifting from SpaceX towards the US as far as some of this mission goes, or missions go. And so I think that they want to try to force Elon into SpaceX to not charge as much.
So that's a good thought. I know a thing or two about these contracts. Most of the money that NASA was going to pay for the development of these systems has already been paid to both companies. So whether they deliver in 5 years or 2 years, it really doesn't matter. They're not saving or gaining any money.
I didn't realize that. I thought that it was like a thing where it was this much for this year, this much for next year. I didn't know that. Okay. So that breaks that plan. I still think it's politically motivated. And I do think that I don't know. I still struggle to see Blue Origin get up to speed with SpaceX on this. Like, you just recapped the amazingness that was this Starship 11 test flight and the things that it was able to accomplish, and that they are trying to break the ship by leaving tiles off of it. They still can't even do that. And Blue Origin seems to fail and fail and fail. So I struggle to see the viability in them actually legitimately wanting to use Blue Origin instead of SpaceX. I think there's an alternative reason.
So just to be clear of all of the viable parameters of the Starship human landing system, they are going to need to reuse ships to transfer fuel to the HLS system.
Yes.
So in order to do it rapidly, they're going to have to rapidly reuse basically what they call tanker ships. And so when they come back down, the tanks cannot be ruptured. And ship 38, I didn't say it in my recount of the mission, but ship 38 was perforated in the tank areas in several places because of the missing tiles, but you wouldn't be able to refuel it and go. I don't even know if you could repair it. It was damaged beyond use. So you couldn't rapidly reuse it. You're going to have another ship be launched. You might be able to rapidly reuse the booster. So if you have enough ships stacked up, you could probably do it. But they said they need 17 at one point in time, 17 different ships to launch to refuel the ship that is going to the moon. So that's 18 launches just off of that statement in order to send something. And you have to do this like every couple of hours because the fuel it's cryogenic fuel. It does eventually burn off. So that is an issue with Starship. The benefit of Blue Origin is they say they have zero loss in their cryogenic tanks. So that alone even if they needed refueling, that provides at least stability in the fuel tanks, that they'll be able to retain more propellant as they go forward. That could be a consideration here.
Yeah, you've got me rethinking this whole thing. I still think that, they've squandered it in the sense of political reasons. And by that, I do still think that both of these companies will fail or face problems.
No, you were probably right to begin with.
I'm getting there as they start to get closer and actually fail in some of these things. Like I do think that Blue Origin has this history of not being smooth sailing. And so, like, let's say what happens if let's say they lock in a contract and then they go and somehow they do something and they beat SpaceX in this something. And then it goes horribly wrong. Well, now the current political climate means that there's going to be big pressure. Stop wasting our tax dollars. Stop wasting our money. Why are you giving Blue Origin more time? And now we're back to probably a limbo that will go on for a very long time, and the whole thing will probably be abandoned. So I think that the current political climate, doesn't bode well for either of these companies, if I'm being honest.
Chris?
I think they'll keep throwing money at it. And I think that once the game is played between the two billionaire companies, someone will kiss butt appropriately enough to then become the front runner again and succeed. I think there's too much money involved for it not to happen. So it's going to happen. The real question is, how safe is it?
So the difference between the two companies right now, and this might not be long term, but right now, is that SpaceX has a legitimate income stream that is not NASA dependent, and that's Starlink. We talked about it last time, right? So Starlink is keeping this vehicle alive, and they need this vehicle to launch even bigger, better Starlink satellites in orbit so they can make more money, because they can market to more people to do more, better internet, faster, better, more places, that sort of thing. So they're going to win long term from the development of Starship. I don't think there's that much money in going to the moon. I think moon is a testing ground for Mars. So if anything, if they have a race, it's really to Mars, not necessarily to the moon. But there's also those natural resources on the moon, which is close enough that we can, use some mining techniques to get the water and the special mining minerals and that sort of thing from it. It won't be entirely economic viable, but it will prove the technology to go off to do other things. And because SpaceX has the funding to do these special little R&D jaunts, basically back and forth to the moons through their Starlink, I think they have a better long-term chance of all three. Really, if you consider China being like a third company or country in the whole thing, China might do the Apollo program where they're going to get to the moon, but unless they show some sort of economic viability from all that, I don't know if they will maintain a presence. It is ultimately all about the money. You go back to Christopher Columbus. Did he come back with gold? No. How long did it take for the next ship to go? A long time.
One thing that does occur to me is we've already seen the situation where SpaceX had to fill in for another private entity in the world of space. And so I wonder, let's say that things do end up going the way of Blue Origin as far as contracts go. I just can't shake the feeling that something is going to happen and SpaceX will have to be right there to go, oh, we'll save you. Just because they're so far ahead. I don't know. It just, it's hard for me to compare the two, given the very small profile of everybody except for SpaceX, and then the very large success profile of SpaceX.
And one could say Boeing has had some success in commercial space flight through New Shepard, but as we discussed last time, it's 3 minutes in space.
Fair enough.
SpaceX, on the other hand, has had full-blown missions to space using their capsule that are not International Space Station related. So some are, some aren't. So they've done very well with their Dragon capsules. Do the Dragon capsule success translate over to Starship? Maybe a little, but it's not a one-for-one. And does the one-for-one that's different but similar from New Shepard to the Moonlander, Blue Moon Mark 1, for instance, is that, I don't know. It's so early in this. It's very, very hard to say one versus the other. But Between the two, Blue Origin has the first opportunity, if they land their booster, to launch something to the moon next year. Not with people on it, but get something to the surface next year.
What about robots? Are we going to take over the moon, invade with robots?
It's all happened before, it will all happen again.
So say we all.
All right, well, let's go on to the next news point here before SP convinces me that I should be a Blue Origin fan because, Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau and all that stuff there. Obviously, I, as Canadian, should be Blue Origin fan. Let's go on to Bose, because apparently Bose, that was a weird stretch, Bose is going to make some changes.
Can you listen to Katy Perry on Bose?
You could. Yes.
Okay.
In theory.
In space?
Well, I guess it really depends on how you're listening, because if it's after February 18th, 2026, and you are trying to listen through a streaming service on your SoundTouch device, well, you will not be able to do that because Bose has announced that it's discontinuing support for their SoundTouch product line in regard to the SoundTouch app after February 18th, 2026. What exactly is the SoundTouch line? Well, let me quote you from the post where they announced this. Quote, first introduced in 2013, SoundTouch systems have delivered more than a decade of reliable, room-filling sound, end quote. Now, these SoundTouch products relied a lot on the SoundTouch app for many of the features, and basically that's what they've announced that they are discontinuing is the SoundTouch app, which means that it will affect the other cloud-related stuff that's to do with the SoundTouch platform. Quote, on February 18th, 2026, Bose will discontinue cloud support for all SoundTouch products. Until that date, your system will continue functioning as usual, including access to cloud-based features through the SoundTouch app. So you're probably saying to yourself, why are you watching this podcast? And then you're probably also saying to yourself, I can't imagine there were that many products if they're suddenly stopping support for a critical feature. Well, I can't give you an exact number, but what I can tell you is that the SoundTouch app did cover multiple categories of Bose products, including standalone speakers, home theater systems, and other accessories that were branded SoundTouch, which includes a separate, quote, Bose wireless link, end quote. I'm quoting the name of the product, adapter, which basically took existing pre-SoundTouch Bose products and made them compatible with the SoundTouch platform. And if you bought that, you might have paid it somewhere in the realm of a couple $100, at least Canadian price-wise. And you won't be able to use it anymore. Now, with all of that said, if you do own any of these SoundTouch products, they will continue to work with the dumb features such as Bluetooth, aux input, HDMI. But there is something that I noticed when I was perusing the FAQ for this, which was
Snooping.
Snooping, yes. They said, will I lose access to my saved presets? And the answer to this was, while some existing presets may continue to work, we cannot guarantee that all presets will work going forward. You will not be able to change any existing presets once the app no longer functions. So that tells me, I don't know a lot about the Bose platform, but that tells me there must have been some of these products that actually relied on the SoundTouch platform to do things like set your presets on certain, I don't know, stereos or whatever. And it makes me wonder how many other features might be related, because I did a little bit of Googling and I saw some references to things like being able to start the calibration from the SoundTouch app. I know there were some sound profiles on some of these things, and I'm wondering how many of these things are going to be affected by the discontinuation of the SoundTouch app.
I think it's pretty obvious Bose doesn't care.
Yeah. And as we discuss that, I want to also ask the question, how do you guys feel about buying something expecting a certain feature set, such as in this case here, Bose having the SoundTouch app with all of these cloud features, only to have them retired later. Do you think that there's a solution to this problem? And what other things might you have encountered this, whether geeky or non-geeky related? Geeky and wink. So yeah, I agree with you. I do think that that Bose clearly doesn't care.
So I guess the question I would have is, this service, is this something there was a monthly subscription tied to, or it was you buy the hardware once and then you use this app to interface with it?
I think it was kind of like our Echoes or our Nest devices, where it was like, we're buying this hardware and we're going to use it to communicate with these other platforms like streaming and whatnot.
So that's the problem we run into anymore with any of this hardware anymore that's all predicated on connecting to back-end cloud services, is that because you have a feature 3 years ago doesn't mean you'll have a feature 3 years later. Why is that? Well, because they're maintaining and paying for servers and developers and things like that to keep it running. And if you're Bose, and I'm not justifying their decision, I'm looking at it from a business point of view, they go, we're not selling this hardware anymore. We're paying X amount of dollars per year to keep the service running. Shut it down. And they frankly don't care because they already got your money. It's the sad, simple fact of the matter. And that's the problem we run into with tech anymore. And Stephen, you mentioned Wink as a joke. We do know that happened there with a lot of creep and cost creep. You could argue there was an enshittification of the product that went on, for lack of a better term. I don't think you have to bleep that because it's actually used in a variety of different news sources, but that's where they continue to kind of degrade a service and take things away and make it worse. And you just kind of get used to it and take it. We've seen it with Google Nest, for instance. Remember Nest Gen 1 and 2 thermostats? I had one in my house that I just sold like less than a week ago. The Gen 1 and Gen 2 thermostats are being depreciated as of October 24th, I think it was. You would no longer have cloud access to adjust your thermostat or any of that. It wouldn't be able to phone home and send any metrics and data back. Now, you can argue the Gen 1 thermostat was 10 plus years old, so you had a good run on it. But something like a thermostat, you set that, install it, they last a long time, longer than 10 years. Should I expect to have full feature support on my thermostat? Arguably, yes, but you can look at it from a business perspective and see why they would choose to stop that, because A, people aren't buying Nest Gen 4 thermostats or 3 or whatever it is, but also it's more of a software problem. Is Google came in, bought Nest, moved everything to the Google Home app, and probably realized it's a giant pain in the butt to migrate all of those Gen 1 and 2 thermostats that work differently, designed with different devs, things like that. So they decided not to do it. And you got a coupon for 50% off if you wanted. I didn't use it. I went to Ecobee in my new home. But I don't know. This is the trend now, and it's disturbing, but I don't know how you fix it other than saying, hey, I'm willing to subscribe to some service associated with this. But at some point, the hardware that is on all of these devices is not going to be able to support the software that is being used. I am completely shocked, for instance, that we have all the Google smart speakers that came out. I think all of them are slated to work with Gemini, which really surprised the heck out of me. They're way behind in putting out new hardware, anything like that. But every smart speaker that's out there that they've made will support Gemini in some way, shape, or form. That is not something we saw with Amazon as the enhanced version of Alexa, I won't say her name, doesn't work on some older hardware. Now, you can also argue Amazon's put out a lot more hardware, so that might make sense. But they've now set a precedent of depreciating connectivity to your digital assistant on old hardware. Sadly, this is the nature of where we are now, because if you're not subscribing to something, the only way to get your cash is to make you buy a new piece of hardware a few years down the road.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything that you said there. One thing that I will throw in is I think we have quite solidly reached the point where this amalgamation of legacy technology with smart technology or even streaming technology is starting to fail, because we saw that for so long. And the preset in the FAQ is a great example of that. Should I expect that my stereo can have presets 10 years later less than 10 years later, well, I guess over 10 years
So-
later, it depends. Yes, probably. But the thing is, we saw this big smash of stuff happen where it's like all this internet connected stuff. Different features were supplemented, and now they're starting to need that backbone, and that backbone is being retired.
Sure. I guess there's a slight difference here with what we're talking about with the Bose stuff, just from reading what you've been saying there, because you said in theory, things like Bluetooth, aux input, HDMI input, things like that will keep working. So while you don't have smart capabilities, you still have, by what is all accounts and by all the propaganda that is out there, a pretty solid little speaker or sound system. So that's one of the trade-offs you have as you depreciate some other things, like say, I'm going to cast a hypothetical here. They were depreciating the Gen 1 Nest devices or ALEXA devices. How do you do anything with those if you can't talk to them? That's the difference. I can't hit a button and cause it to Bluetooth pair. I can't make it do anything besides turn volume up and down or mute it by hitting buttons. So at least, and maybe this is me reaching, trying to find a pro here, at least you still have a speaker that you're able to interact with and use for some purpose. Whereas what we're seeing with some of these other smart devices and things out there is when you lose your app connectivity, it's basically e-waste.
Fair enough. SP, what's your thoughts?
It's pretty standard in our lifetimes. You know, I've grown from stuff that used to last a lifetime. There's those internet memes and
You
jokes.
also groan, by the way, whenever you podcast with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like right now.
Mm.
But there are the internet memes that these refrigerators from the 1980s are still working today, where you buy a new refrigerator and it's planned obsolescence in 6 years because of the same issues. There are internet connected, Internet of Things and that sort of thing. And then also just the motors and everything behind it are not meant to last like they were in the 80s and before. With the digital software, I think the companies that will engender a lot of goodwill over the course of their consumers' lives are the ones that will allow APIs out there, like just shareware. This is
Those
what
cost money.
Well, to set up, yeah, I understand. But if you plan that obsolescence from the beginning and say, we are going to turn over everything here to everybody so that you individually can go into your devices and put some firmware in there so that you can do whatever you want and make it easy to do it, basically, that you can create something that can persist versus e-waste. And there
I like your thought. I like it a lot, but let me take devil's advocate here. You make it so that you can open source the software on your refrigerator. I install Steven's super firmware.
I know.
And then my
I hear you.
refrigerator burns my house down.
Yeah, right.
Who's actually liable? Steven or Samsung or me or nobody?
Well, that would be when you open it up, you would have to sign up for those terms. I totally get that. And I was headed there myself.
Okay. I apologize. I derailed you. My
No,
bad.
you didn't.
I'm sorry.
You brought up a link, but there's got to be this middle ground between the two. We've all had or currently have Harmony remotes from Harmony, now Logitech, same sort of deal. And I wish they would make that code API because it's failed again. So like the last time we podcasted together, it had failed, come back. Now it's failed again, where I can use the remote individually, but I can't use it through my smart speaker in order to control the volume, turn it on and off and that sort of thing. I have no idea what's going to work on any given day. And I really wish that they would just open source that code right now, give me the option to turn it on, and then let me take the risk of the remote working or not working, or me protecting it behind a firewall or something like that. I think we as a society have to get to the point where that is a viability. I also think, on the other hand, that we as society need to get to the point where all this stuff needs to be updated to some AI in the cloud, and that the AI itself manages the software, which is a lower level than itself. And by doing that, it can keep it alive with the parameters. It needs to talk to these certain things. It needs to perform these certain operations. In this particular case with the speakers, so that the presets are there so that it works when you're using it with perhaps devices that it already knows, maybe not new devices, but devices that it already knows, and then gives you the opportunity to interface with other newer devices through some sort of coding. That is a possibility in the future. Are we there yet? No, which is why I'm not saying it's a viable alternative, but I can see that becoming a viable opportunity in just a couple of years.
So let me pose you a hypothetical when it comes to potentially curing our e-waste. We've talked about the fact that, hey, a lot of these things that are sunk cost, buy it once and never pay again, cause it to go away. If Logitech came out today, and I know you both have Harmonies, I do too, and said, we'll keep everything running, we'll maintain and develop it if we can get 50% of our user base to say they'll pay $2 a month or $20 a year for our service, would you do it?
For the Harmony situation, it would be a yes for me.
If it was low cost, if they upped it to like 15 bucks a month, I'm not paying it.
That's the question then, is if they do that, when do they become greedy enough that they gradually creep that price up, then everyone goes away again? And that's the inevitable truth of all of this, is they start us with a cheap subscription, and then we see it with Disney Plus, Netflix, all those other things, and then they go through the roof, and you're just like, nope, I'll wait until the next promo. The way the system is set up now, cool cloud-connected services, the days of free are gone. We're now at a point where you either are buying a subscription or you're paying a huge upfront cost in the hopes they don't shut it down a few years down the road.
Yeah, I have to say that for me with this whole situation, I do think the fridge example is a great one, because I think that there is unfortunately a future where we're not curing the e-waste and it's becoming like the fridge, where we accept that you just don't have the same quality as you used to get with the fridge. And so we're living through the area right now, and I hate it because I think that this is BS, that people bought products and have bought different things expecting a certain level of feature sets, and now they're not getting that. I don't like that, but I think that we eventually get past that, where people start to accept that I understand I'm buying this product and I might lose access to that thing later, like how people started to accept that I'm going to buy a fridge and it's not going to last 30, 40 years anymore. So I do think that unfortunately the solution is actually not solving e-waste, and it's that we accept that we lose things.
But where's the expectation on the length of use of the item?
And that's where I think it's going to change, because I think you go back to the 70s and you say you're going to buy yourself a fridge, and 10 years later you're going to need to buy yourself another fridge, and people are going to, you're insane. There's no way I'm going to do that. But that's where we as society went. We accept that that's how appliances have gone, and unfortunately we don't know where that's going to land with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, if the company sells the refrigerator or whatever item it is, even speaker, you name it, we've named a ton of smart devices. If they sell it and they say, we will support it for X amount of time, and they might extend that a little bit on the tail end if it's economically viable for them to do so. And then at the end, they're going to stop, like Windows 10. Technically, Windows 10 just went into obsolescence.
That was our final Windows, they promised.
True. But then they said, okay, we're going to support it to this date. And it took them a couple, like 3 years to get to the point where we are now, where it's supposed to be gone, right? Or not supported, basically. Not the security is not supported with it. And I think we're at that point where we just know that it is going to end at some point. But if the company is open with that, what that timeline is, then you can make an informed decision if you're going to buy product X or Y based on the amount of time that the company is going to support the software behind it. There is still the physical hardware reliability that you have to take into account. So there's now two things that you have to take into account. But if the company says we're going to support it for X amount of time, then you can make an informed decision. I think that might be a more viable for the consumer, but that's assuming that your average consumer is smart about all this and wants to weigh those. And I don't think that the average consumer is going to put that much time into a smart speaker.
You're starting to see consumer pushback on some stuff, though, because like Samsung has said, hey, all of these fridges that we built that have like tablets built into them, we're going to start serving ads on it. And there's been a pretty loud pushback on that one. And I think deservedly so, because I bought this and now you want to put an ad in the middle of my kitchen when that is not what I signed up for. Now, could you just set up Pi-hole on your network and block all the ads before they can even come in? Sure, but your common user is not going to do something like that. We're starting to see the greed factor come into play enough where a lot of consumers may start being like, no, I'm not buying a Samsung fridge again, not because they're crappy and don't work well after 6 years, but because they keep changing what they're going to do with the tech. And side note, Samsung fridges suck. Don't buy one. They break within 5 to 6 years because the guts inside them are bad.
Okay, so think about the next extension of that is, some of these fridges and smart devices. Well, let's stick with the fridges. They have the camera inside, so you could see what was inside without opening your fridge. How long till they start mining that? How long till they start mining?
They already have.
They probably are. And you know what? I don't know why you would want that camera in your fridge other than the first time you do it, you go, okay, that's kind of cool. But what is the practical use case? Do you really lose that much cool air to open your fridge to be like, did I buy milk or what's the date on my milk?
All right. I saw,
this is a problem that no one's looking to solve. They just solved it.
I saw a reel or something just this past week that was funny on this. So I'm just going to recant it because it's the usefulness of it is the entertainment factor. Is this woman put a candy bar in the refrigerator and told her husband, boyfriend, whatever, don't eat that, that's mine. The stereotypical woman is going to eat the Hershey bar and the guy just leave me alone sort of thing. And well, the next day the Hershey bar was gone and the guy legitimately said, I did not take that. So she said, okay, let's go to the tape. And they went to the tape or the recording. And I don't know if these recordings are kept anywhere. Opens up the refrigerator door. The guy does opens up the refrigerator door, sees the candy bar there and closes but closes the door. So then a couple minutes later, the door opens. Guy is holding cat. Cat reaches out. Cat grabs the candy bar. Guy leaves. The cat took the bar. I didn't take the bar. So it's entertainment value.
That's so good. That's so good. So before we spend too much time hating on all of these subscriptions and lack thereof and e-waste and all that, I just want to say that for me, this sort of thing always, whenever I read it, makes me want to continue my ongoing quest to try to stay as local as possible in stuff that is controllable because of open source nature or whatever, that it's not dependent on an outside service. So it's hard to walk that line in certain things, and sometimes it's not worth it, but it's always a good reminder for me. And RIP Wink.
It's not dead yet.
Not
somehow.
yet.
I mean, Stephen, you may or may not have not one but two Wink hubs in your house.
Yeah. Right now. Okay. Let's talk about this before we get to Chris's news here, because I've already decided that, we're going to extend this a little bit here in some of our discussions on some of these points here, because I got myself a, just hold on one second here. Chris Farrell, why don't you describe what you're holding up?
For those on audio, I'm holding a Wink Gen 1 device that I promptly found when we were moving out of the old house, tossed in my random tech box of stuff that packed up, brought it here, and went, why the hell do I have this? I can't even hook it up to anything anymore, because when I decided not to use the subscription, I didn't upgrade the hardware, and I'm pretty sure it's non-upgradable at this point in time.
Nope,
so
not.
This is a relic, the Wink Gen 1 hub that I think I paid $20 for at Target on the clearance rack.
E-waste right now. Yeah.
It's going to be dissected just for S&Gs, just to see what's inside.
And for those of you not watching, I found a little package at my doorstep a while back, and I opened it up and I was very confused because actually, I'll be honest, I was out and my wife called me and she goes, "Oh, SP sent you a package." And I'm like, "Okay, what is the label
Was it
say?
in a box?
It was a box and it was very bloody. But she told me that the label said something about a VHS and on there.
True.
And so immediately my mind.
By the way, you have to declare, since I live in the United States, Stephen lives in Canada, you have to fill out a customs form as it goes across the border. So there's literally a inventory of what is in the box that's on the label for the package.
So my mind immediately goes to, okay, he wrote VHS because this was on the heels of him having a whole eBay fiasco with some other entertainment equipment. And I thought, did he send me his e-waste? But then I found out that there was a VHS in there that had the 2005. Oh, it's not focusing.
That's my handwriting, by the way.
2005 Super Bowl of the Patriots versus the Eagles. So he sent me that, which was very cool.
Are you sure that's what it is? Have you watched it yet?
I have not watched it yet, but I am looking forward to seeing what.
I will vouch that is exactly what is on that tape.
Oh,
there's no hidden gems in there.
That's too bad.
I just wanted to. It was either that or I was going to throw it away, and I figured I need to send this to either an Eagles fan or a Patriots fan. So I decided to send it to Patriots fan.
But I say all of this because also in there was the infamous SP edition of the Wink 2 hub that
autographed.
It's not autographed, but this is the very one that he recounted on this podcast about eBaying. Having the eBay user not pay attention to anything because they were an idiot. If you're watching this, you're a moron. You can stop watching this show. And created a problem with eBay and then ended up coming back to him. So I have the SP edition of the Wink 2 hub that is bricked. So there you go. I have that, and I am so glad that we got on this topic because I totally forgot to mention it on here.
Steven, open it up. It's not just the box; it's the actual Wink 2 hub.
It is.
I
haven't actually opened it yet. So this is
There's hardware in there. Yeah.
There we go. See, you can see the Wink 2 hub. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a Wink logo there.
There is a legitimate Wink 2 hub.
So that is what I have here, which takes us from one piece of outage junk to another, which is Chris's news.
Well, I mean, I don't know that it's outage junk, but we were talking about subscription services and things like that. Hey, a lot of that is built on the backbone of AWS. For those of you that are not aware, that is Amazon Web Services. Obviously, things like Amazon Voice Services use that to do all of the web processing, things like that. But so do things like, I don't know, Snapchat or Fortnite and a variety of other services. So why do I mention that? Well, it's Monday, October 20th. And evidently this morning, there was a bit of a kerfuffle when it came to AWS service. There was an early morning software update to their DynamoDB that contained an error, which took down service in Northern Virginia. The error within that update caused a chain reaction of service failures and disruptions, something that we are seeing still at this time when we record at 8:40 p.m. You heard us joking in the pre-show that Steven was having trouble with his Stream Deck. Well, it's because there's a web hook for it. And he was like, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And I think it's SP that went, does it use AWS? And we all went, oh, that could be it. So why is this a big deal that AWS is down or having problems? Well, about 30% of the worldwide cloud market is using AWS as their backend. So in theory, you got about a third of web service based software that may or may not be working properly at this time. There's even a banner on the top of Amazon.com if you go there today to say that they're having website troubles, refresh to try and order, and all of their delivery times were well into the end of the week now. It was the 20th today. I was trying to order a few things, and most of the delivery dates were like the 25th and 26th. So either delivery is messed up or they're improperly able to estimate what those are with all of their AWS issues.
In Canada, they just removed it and put a thing that says, we'll let you know when this will be shipped.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So why do I bring this up? Well, because honestly, I didn't realize there was an AWS web outage until I got to work today. And it was about 6:30 or 7. And I popped on, took a couple minute breaks to go see what was on the news on the website. Went, AWS is down. How did I not notice? And I went, wait a second, I guess I did notice because it was about 5:15. I just finished brushing my teeth, and as I was walking back into the bedroom, I said, hey, A-word, what's the weather for today? And the light spun, and about 10 seconds later it goes, I'm unable to connect to the internet. And I paused, and I looked around, and I went, I'm pretty sure everything's on the internet. I looked at my watch. It didn't show that it was disconnected. I looked across the room to the smart display I have that's a digital picture frame, and it was showing pictures and no connection error. And I went, maybe it's just a weird Amazon hiccup. And I didn't think anything of it until I saw that there was an outage. So why do I mention? I kind of wanted to see with you guys, did this AWS outage really impact your life in a negative way? Because I know for a lot of
Yes.
people, it could have taken. Okay, well,
Yes, it
you go
did.
first, SP. How did it impact you? Because I'm really curious because I didn't notice it.
Well, I did. I actually, this is kind of funny. Stay with me here.
Sure.
At 4:40 this morning, I was watching YouTube in bed. I was watching one of my car channels that I watch, and HH Wheels. If you're curious about it, I can tell you more about it, but it's immaterial. So I knew my internet was working. It was streaming, and I have a smart switch on the lamp next to the bed. And I was like, okay, I'm not going back to sleep. I'm going to get up. I'm going to start working out. So I said, a word, turn on my lamp. And nothing happened. I'm like, a word, turn on the lamp. Nothing happened. A word, turn on the lamp. Because I get progressively angry when it doesn't listen to me. And it didn't do anything. I'm like, fine, I'm going to do it myself. I got my iPad out, which I was watching the YouTube video on. I went to Smart Things app, and it took a little bit to load everything, but it did load. And I pressed turn on the lamp. It's one of the many, we've talked about it before. I have more than a few dozen smart things in my house, including the refrigerator, as we were not really discussing, but discussing before. Anyway, turn on the lamp. Nothing. On the lamp. And, hitting the iPad harder, and it didn't go.
That's going to fix it.
So I actually have a dumb lamp that it was just an extra lamp, but we put it next to my lamp just for a backup in case it didn't work for specifically situations like this. Because I know at some point it's going to happen. And I turned it on, the manual one. The other one didn't work for an hour. And then after I took a shower and got ready for work, because I go to work early. I work for a organization that starts early. So I'm starting to get ready to go, and I say, a word, turn on the lamp, and it actually turned on. I was like, okay. So then I go downstairs to fix breakfast, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Hey, a word, was there a Smart Things outage this morning? And it said, no, it is working fine right now. When did this occur? Because I'm doing the A Word Plus thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so it came back. When did this occur? Maybe I can do some back analysis on what was going on. I said, happened about 4:40 this morning. And it said, well, it's working fine right now. In the middle of the night, sometimes, this is what it told me. In the middle of the night, sometimes these smart things or smart devices update. And maybe it was going through one of those cycles, but it's working fine now. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay, when a smart device tells you not to worry about a smart device, I start worrying about the smart device. All right.
No, Hal.
So I didn't have time because I was running like 5 minutes late, and I really needed to get going because I was actually dealing with a new employee today. And I left, but what I wanted to do was do down detector for various different things. And I would have found that AWS was down if I used down detector at that point in time. So that was one reason that it affected me. And then throughout the day, Chris, you were talking about delivery times being pushed back. I actually have several things in the pipeline from Amazon to be delivered. And I had a couple things delivered today, but I didn't have everything delivered today. I'm like, what's going on? So they started to drop off one after another, after another, after another. I was like, oh, because I had seen and read about the problem. I'm like, that's exactly what happened. They use AWS to have their logistics system on board, which normally works great, and it is down right now. And because I depend on those deliveries of this, I don't need to go to the store. I don't need to spend time to go to the store. It's just going to be delivered at a certain point in time. Generally, it's a little cheaper. I'm just going to order it from Amazon, and they didn't show up. Now, did it affect my life? Because none of these things were critical. It wasn't like it was medical stuff. It was all stuff that it can wait a day or two. But it has affected my life. And if it would continue, it would affect my life even more and more and more and more. So I really hope they get it fixed if they haven't already.
So you're kind of describing circumstances where it was annoying and a little bit of a pain point, but it didn't really cause you great heartburn or anything like that. There are some other folks that had bigger issues, for instance. Like, for instance, my wife teaches at one of the universities here, and they have a program at WVU that's called Canvas or something like that, that a variety of other universities use, that is for the students to be able to submit their paperwork, their homework, exams, stuff like that. And it didn't work all day, basically. So like they couldn't submit exams. There's another guy in one of the Discords that I talk sports on who said, yeah, I have an exam tomorrow, and all the review material that our professor put up is on this Canvas program, and I can't get to it right now because of the AWS outage. And as of about 4:30 this afternoon, he'd been trying to get on to get his study material since 8 a.m. and had not been able to access the system. So there are some folks that it was both annoying and also potentially problematic for their GPA. Ernesto in the chat says down for him the Canvas stuff too. So evidently it's still down. I'm not sure where Ernesto's out of, but it's 8:48 Eastern as we record this on the 20th. So it's been down for 12 plus hours for some folks that have been trying to get in there to prepare for exams.
So for me, I'm pretty fortunate usually with this sort of stuff here, because normally when these things happen, they will start somewheres early in the morning. And so as a West Coaster, I get to wake up and see a Discord message that came in from Chris Farrell at like 4:45 a.m. my time that talked about the issue that was happening, because
that's like 2:30 in the afternoon.
so that was my first thing. Was I had noticed the notification when I'd woken up this morning that you had posted there in our Discord, which is why everybody should be in our Discord, by the way. Everybody should definitely come over to our Discord and hang out there, because you get things like that. But I didn't respond. I'll admit I didn't respond. And then I get to do my normal routine, and
you could just blame Discord. Be like, oh, Discord
wasn't working.
My response didn't
that's
send.
why. No, I'd rather you know that I ignored your message.
Thank you.
But no. So then, what happens is, for the audio listener, Chris is very resisting his finger next to his index finger from going up. But. So my morning routine, I do my thing, log into work, no problems there, anything. And then I hear the kids get up. And what do they try to do? Turn on the TV using a certain voice assistant.
Okay.
So I go and I'm like, hey, see this? This is called a remote. You're going to need to use that. so I get them set up with that. And then, after a little bit, I get a message from a coworker going, do you know if something happened to our access to Adobe stock? I can't search for anything. Ooh. So I go and I look, and inevitably apparently we could get to the site for Adobe stock, but we couldn't actually search for anything. And there were some errors coming up with that. So I assume that the front page must be different than the back end that's actually pulling all the information. So it must have been on that. So then things were pretty normal after that, because, I wasn't needing to. It wasn't my search that was happening. I was just trying to help somebody out. So I just let them suffer, and I continued on. And then a little bit later, I went, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a few minute break here and get the YouTube video set up for the GonnaGeek Show for tonight. And so I was able to get it set up on the YouTube panel. But then I tried to get our live page on the GonnaGeek site set up, which is through WordPress, and I couldn't access the GonnaGeek site. Inevitably, why am I saying inevitably? That's not the right word. Indubitably. No, so apparently the platform that we were on for the GonnaGeek site, which is, it is a CDN service that we use, but that must have been through Amazon Web Services, because from my area, whatever node I was hitting, I couldn't actually access the GonnaGeek site or the website for the CDN where all of this stuff is managed. So that node that I was hitting must have been an Amazon Web Services one. And then there was just some other weird quirks throughout the day. I actually went to order something on Amazon. I had that problem, but it was overall just mainly an inconvenience.
I've seen in the chat, though, we have a Jonesy who's watching on YouTube, I believe, says a big chunk of Adobe's Creative Cloud and apps were down for them as well.
Okay.
I didn't even consider that. And, this would be one of those circumstances where I'd be reaching out and be like, hey, I pay for a subscription. I pay for 365 days of the subscription. I couldn't access things today. Give me one more day. See if you can get some free stuff. I mean, you're paying for it, so I think it is fair.
Okay, how many times have you done that with utilities like cable or electricity that goes out for a variety of reasons?
Well, the good news is my electricity has been pretty solid for me for the past 10 years, so I haven't needed to. And I guess I could have for some of the Hulu outages that there have been, but the nice thing there is I'm like, F it, I'll just watch YouTube instead and end up going to YouTube.
Yeah, in my experience, the hassle of getting like a couple of dollars off, because that's what they'll prorate it to. It's not worth my time, but that's me. It might be a lot to somebody, and I'm not going to minimize that. And it is a way to fight back with the company to make sure that they have a little bit more resiliency and assurance of their service. So I get that, but in my experience, it doesn't really matter all that much. What mattered to me, what was the biggest thing for me in streaming or internet, was I was having so many issues with cable that when fiber finally came to my neighborhood, I switched just like that. It was not a second thought about it. I'm going with something else because your reliability has been so poor. You could go back in 5 years ago on the GonnaGeek Show or Better Podcasting or whatever, and you will see us talk about all three of us, actually, that's not just me, our internet issues. Yeah. And we just switched because it would go to something that was more reliable. Now, is it more reliable because the tech is more reliable, or more reliable because it's newer? That's debatable. It's just more reliable. I've had maybe one outage with my fiber internet since I got it. And that was because of some storm or something. And it got back on in a matter of a couple of hours versus the days that it's taken in the past for Spectrum, my Spectrum cable. And Spectrum was the provider. So whatever you want to talk about there in terms of what is the value to you, or are you just waiting for something else to come along? Like with electricity, you can clearly just say, look, I will get my own solar panels and my own battery, and I will be fine myself. That is a legit way to fight back against the electric company.
Not for me.
So why is that because there's regulations or cost?
No, it's because of the cost, but also my house position versus what I could get. But
if you put a satellite in orbit to beam that energy right down to your house,
right? Okay. I was going to use wireless charging from your house, from here.
Okay.
Yeah. So come to our Discord and let us know, where did you first experience this outage? Because I'm sure it affected you today. Chris Farrell will personally respond to every one of your messages.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I didn't say when. So that's an easy promise to make.
And finally, let's go to a quick extra here, because I got to follow up to a past podcast. That's right. One of the great things about being such a long-standing podcast that just covers a variety of BS is that every now and then a topic goes out of phase and then comes right on back. And for longtime fans of this show, you might go way back to episode 327 of this show, where Chris Farrell told us all about a smart toilet for research purposes. Well, guess what?
You bought one.
You bought one. I did not buy one. But
Chris did.
Oh, Chris did. Yeah, so I'm sure he did. No,
I mean, if someone buys it for me, I'll install it.
I think that was your response back in 327 as well. Well, I was on Google News today and I saw a post about how Kohler was looking for they had a new product for their health and wellness brand, because they were creating a $5.99 Dakota, which is DEKODA clamp, which is going to go over the rim of a toilet bowl, and it is going to point an optical sensor at your excretions and secretions.
It's Dr. Toilet.
It's going to go at, I think Dr. Toilet was episode 327, wasn't it?
I think it was a Scrubs bit that I ripped off, maybe.
Okay,
but...
fair enough. Fair enough. Well, that's okay. That's probably what it was. I briefly looked up which episode it was and scanned the information we had there. But this new device is going to analyze the images and detect any blood, as well as analyze potential gut health and hydration status. And if you're saying to yourself, wow, $5.99 for a poo cam? Guess what? You're also going to have to pay a subscription fee between $70 and $156 per year, depending on which plan you choose. So if you have been waiting for another toilet cam, you're in luck, because there is now a new thing that you can buy.
Well, I mean, Steven, I just take a photo every morning and send it to you over text, and you let me know how things look. So you could probably just monetize that service.
I don't know. As soon as I saw this, I actually thought that this was something that we should bring on here, because this was a follow-up to Chris's prior talk, but also it's an opportunity to bring back the Toilet Talk channel on the Discord server, which is not actually related to episode 327. It was related to something else. So go ahead and I think you come to our Discord, we'll have the Toilet Talk channel back.
Yeah, we could put that back, but I want to give credit to Jonesy right here, because in the chat, he mentions that I guess if you have a chronic illness, it might be appealing. And you know what?
Yeah,
I completely agree with that. If you have like an ongoing battle with cancer and you need to know how things are going, either from your urine or your bowel movements, I think actually, if you have those sorts of concerns, this is not, it could even be subsidized through like your medical insurance.
Yeah, I guess that's the question, is with the subscription fee, is that something insurance would pick up? Because Jonesy's right. If you have an illness or something like that where you need to be monitoring to make sure that there's no problems, this could potentially catch something before you normally would. So we made jokes because it's funny, but at the same time, there is potential there for it to be helpful for the folks. But I just don't know how monetizable this is. I can't imagine there's a huge subscription base for it, but maybe I'm wrong. I could just not be plugged in properly to know the market that they're trying to capture.
You're not old enough.
I 100% agree. All jokes aside, I think there is an actual reason for this. And it was probably where we went last time we talked about this, because the last thing was, I think, also health related. I do have concerns, given everything we've talked about today, as far as different web issues and retired services, and also privacy concerns. And
yeah.
I have all sorts of concerns about that. Sure. With that said, if you've been around for a while, you've at some point had to send a sample in, and this sounds a lot better than having to go through the process of the other sample method.
I just have concerns about what happens if you eat a bunch of blue food colored frosting on a cake or something. What's it going to say when things come out and aren't the normal appearance?
I mean, how much is a colonoscopy, for instance? And then could, I don't know if it would or not, but could this replace that? I mean, there's benefits of putting a scope up and, checking out your insides, but you can diagnose a lot from what the excretions are. So yeah, jokes aside, this is, from a medical standpoint, a good idea. Now, if you're a college student and you're just using it to determine how hungover you are, like maybe I shouldn't have that Taco Bell, maybe I shouldn't.
Look,
I don't think it's worth that. But
so if there's any college kids watching this one, let me give you guys the pro tip from a man who's 40 now, but had a lot of fun in his early 20s at what was one of the highest ranked party schools in the land, is make sure you drink plenty of water and do the check of pulling the skin on the back of your hand to see how quick it snaps back. And that's a pretty good sign of at least how dehydrated you are, to know how much water you need to chug if you've been having a nice evening out.
You're supposed to pull the skin on the back of your hand. I thought it was somewhere else. Okay. Whoops.
And evening, aren't most of the West Virginia football games during the afternoon?
I mean, it depends. Back then we were actually good, so we had night games.
Before we do quickly tease future episodes, I do want to just mention that this whole health discussion, by the way, reminds me one of the things that I regularly think about. One of the episodes that I probably think about the most about this show is back. I just looked it up. Episode 128 of this show.
He's no-selling it so hard.
I regularly think about the sperm switch because you brought that news, Chris Farrell.
I forgot about that one.
And that is one that every now and then I just go, why didn't that technology figure its way out?
I mean, especially, I'll speak from my position as someone who lives in the United States, is that with the current climate of things, there's a lot more men that are considering procedures to help deal with birth control and things like that. And that would be a useful alternative as someone. And I could also say, I'll say point blank, I had the snip about a month ago. That would have been a nice alternative because it was, from what I remember, not actually surgery, but more of kind of like some kind of injection or something like that. That was then some kind of dissolvable blockage. Probably a faster recovery time. Not that it's a huge recovery time for a vasectomy or anything like that, but it does slow you down for a bit.
So anyways, I just wanted to mention that because we were talking health talk. We are not health experts. You should not listen to anything we say about health or anything else, actually. And before we go today, I just wanted to tease a little bit. We said we've got some topic ideas for future episodes of this podcast. And if you're paying close attention, one of them that we might talk about in the future is how I ended up upgrading my phone and how I got there, because it was not a straightforward choice. And it was...
I don't think any of them have been straightforward with you for a decade.
Fair enough. That's valid. And then also, we might have in a future episode a little bit of information about lawns. How does that apply to the official GonnaGeek Show? I was just going to say, Chris, do you want to say?
We're going to talk about robots because, hey, I used to live in a townhouse. I don't anymore. So now there's chores that I don't want to do. So how can I not do them? Robots.
I will mow your lawn for you, Chris.
Sweet.
So that's going to go ahead and do it for episode number 417. I'll figure out my buttons soon enough. 417 of the official GonnaGeek Show. I'm Steven saying I don't even know where anything is anymore on my soundboard.
I'm SP saying can't wait to talk about phones next time.
Or the time after that.
I'm Chris. I don't have a soundboard.
Bye!
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of The Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next show.